Thanks, Joel. I appreciate it. I'm coming to everybody live from my kitchen bump out in beautiful Fairfax, Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. And so thank you so much, everyone who's taken the time to share where you're coming from. So this is a little bit different for me this year because we do a lot of resolutions from time to time, but the way we're going to approach them is a little bit different this year. When I was looking for an image, um, I loved this one. I saw this one, and I love to save a buck and I love a good free image, but can I tell you, I paid for this image because it spoke to me. I, like many of you, are probably really ready to, as I say, kick 2020 to the corner and let's move on to 2021. So today we're going to talk a lot about moving forward. But, I started thinking about this picture and the fact that I chose it. And then I thought, you know what? The truth is a lot of good things happened in 2020. So that's my grandson. He's number 5 I have 5 grandchildren. He's my newest born. And here's the thing. He was born the day the US and Canada came to grinding halts. His first day of life on Earth was the first day that nobody was allowed in the hospital but the birth mother and the father, and nobody could go visit. And my grandson was born March 14th, and I wasn't able to see him live, only via FaceTime, for 3 or 4 months. So I didn't even get to hold him until then. But nonetheless, that's one of the wonderful things that happened for me in 2020. And I want to get everybody kind of thinking from that, because we really talk about how we can't wait. 2020's got to end. Let's just get out of 2020. It's time for 2021. And so what I want everybody to just take a minute to do is to, and we're going to send you the slide deck so you can even build it right in the slide deck later, but just to take some time and think about your 2020 celebration list. We all know about the terrible things that happened in 2020 to us as individuals or our families or where we work and professionally. But I think it's good for us just to take a moment and think. And if you feel like sharing in the chat box, you can share in the chat box. But I just want everybody just to take a minute and think, what's one thing that happened personally in 2020 that was amazing? Without a but. My grandson was born on 3/14/20, but I didn't get to see him. I don't want the but. Let's just think of the great thing that happened. And what's the great thing that happened professionally? So I put down that my grandson was born on 3/14/2020. That's my personal one. And professionally, because things were a little slower, I had the time to get certified to teach a course I've always wanted to teach. And so I'm now certified to teach Culture Talk, which is a corporate branding course. And I'm really excited about that. And so I seized the opportunity. So anybody have anything they want to share? It would be great. Joel, do we have anything there?
Just started. Carol has said her first granddaughter was born in June. These are personal ones, obviously. I mentioned that I have 21 years of having a dirt backyard. Now I have a fully renovated backyard, which is super exciting. We'll see if any others come scrolling in here. Larissa got married via Zoom in June. I'm assuming from Larissa's perspective that she and her groom were together and everyone else was watching on Zoom, and that wasn't bride and groom on separate Zoom windows. That'd be cool, but probably not what you're, yes, okay, good, there we go. Any professional ones out there? Katie bought a new house. Excellent. Congrats, Katie. And what about professional ones? I know for me, I was, Delia started a new job that's a better fit. I was going to say I started a capstone career this year here at Unique Venues. So that's been super great for me to actually start all over as a new entry-level professional after 25 years of being in higher ed. So that's been great. And Lynn is a certified CVent event diagramming professional.
Oh, wow. Excellent. That's really cool. Excellent. So take some time and think this through. Let's get into that frame of mind of thinking about possibilities. I'm also trying to set the stage here just to kind of think through. Now, you're going to see some pictures that have chess games and chess pieces in. So, total transparency, I just finished watching The Queen's Gambit, and it was amazing. And so because of that, I have these chess references in my head. So, but I think as we're talking today, and depending upon what your area of responsibility or responsibilities are at your venue, um, to always remember that marketing and sales differ. And the way they differ, so my chess analogy is that marketing builds the chess pieces for sales to win the game or to play the game. So marketing has the responsibility to always be developing, maybe we can say marketing builds the tools for sales to build the house, or marketing makes the weapons for sales to fight the fight. But one is making a tool and the other is taking that tool and using it to grow their business. And so I think it's really important to think from that perspective today. You know, every day when you walk into your venue, are you doing marketing? Are you doing sales? Are you doing both? So try to keep that in mind as we start to talk about some of the things we want to encourage you to do as you head into 2021. So first of all, I call the pivot the dance move of the year. It was funny. I don't know anything about ballet. I just was looking up for some fun images and I thought to myself, I wonder if there was ever like a 60s dance called the pivot or something like that. And there wasn't, but I found out that there is a dance move in ballet called the pivot, because that's how I think about the pivoting that we've done this year. You know, I'm trying to keep things in a positive perspective. So I'm thinking of it as a dance. You know, from a negative perspective, we can think of it as we've been on a quadruple loop roller coaster that sometimes gets stuck while we're hanging upside down. But I want to think of it more like we've had to be nimble and we've had to pivot and we've had to change how we do things and turn things in a different direction than we ever had to do at such a ferocious pace in the past. And I think that one of the things that we should all enter into 2021 doing is trying to take inventory of our pivoting. Have you spent time to sit down and consider the pivoting that you've done, why you've done it, and what kind of solutions that's provided? So to me, I think that's an important thing to do. So when you get this slide deck, you can just erase what I have in here. It's just an example, but it might be a good exercise over lunch or over coffee in the morning or something to sit down with you and some of the team members that you feel like you might want to sit down with and say, how did we pivot in this past year? I mean, like, we know we've done some pivoting, but have we really ever take an inventory of how we pivoted and what the result of that pivot has been? I think it's really an important thing to resolve, to understand where you've been so that you can set the right direction for where you're going in 2021. So one of the examples I put in here is that, you know, the pivot is we're now offering design studio services. So we actually have a vertical and unique venues called UV Design Studio. And so what was the circumstance that caused us to make that pivot? Well, there's a changing business climate. Things are really different. And as people enter into 2021, to present themselves the way they presented themselves 12 months ago might be inaccurate. It might not be the way you want to depict yourself. It might now even be a little bit irrelevant. Maybe the image that you portrayed prior to is very different than the image you're going to portray moving forward. And what were the challenges because of those circumstances? Sure, people need to reinvent themselves, but what are some of the challenges? Oh, well, the challenge might be they don't have a lot of funding available. They don't have somebody on site who can do the design work. Finding a designer who even understands that they're a unique meeting and event site in a crowded marketplace of ordinary. How will they even know how to to push that forward. And the solution then we had was to offer low-cost digital brochure design services that are unique to that venue's branding guideline and what's our strategy. So my question for you is, what's a pivot you've made? What were the circumstances that caused you to make that pivot? What were the challenges behind that, your user circumstances? So the pivot is the way you and your venue has pivoted. The circumstance is your customer circumstance. What is this new circumstance they're facing because of the past year and as they head into 2021? And what challenges are presented by these circumstances that they have? So one of the pivots might be that, an example that's relatable to you is that you have invested in a virtual meeting and event platform that is robust, and that you are now able to offer to meeting and event planners. Now, what caused you to do that pivot? Well, the circumstance is that, and I can speak from a meeting planner perspective, we have our own conferences. Next year, we are only projecting about 60 to 75 actual in-person attendees, if all goes as planned at the current time, for UVAMC, which is 50% less than what we usually expect. And the challenges to that is that we have an obligation. Everybody needs to be able to see and learn, and we don't want to be exclusive, because some people can't help that they can't be there. They don't have the funds, they don't have the budget, they can't travel, whatever it may be. So our solution is, to work with, maybe, your solution helps me be able to provide a holistic experience. And what's the strategy? How are you going to help me as a planner to do that? So what I'd like you to do, not now, of course, but you'll send this slide deck, is to take inventory of the pivots you've made in 2020, heading into 2021. And why did you make that pivot? And answer those questions and ask yourself, is this working? Maybe there's some pivoting that you still need to do. Let's make some assumptions here. I'm going to assume, because I believe Dr. Fauci. So let's make some assumptions here. I'm operating on the following assumptions for my business this year. And that is that vaccinations are going to start in January. First wave of people, healthcare workers, elderly people in assisted living, all of those things are the first wave. Second are essential workers, teachers, and other essential workers. And then at the latest, by the end of June, everyone will be vaccinated. Now, I don't know the timelines in Canada. I know the timelines in the UK are a little bit ahead of ours. I don't know if Canada's a little bit ahead of the US or behind. But here's what I know. I'm working on the assumption that as soon as needles start going in arms, ouch, or pills start going in mouth, or however you take this vaccine, people are, and we get through for 2 or 3 weeks and we find out that people aren't getting sick and everybody's feeling okay and confidence builds in that, there are going to be floodgates that open. So we're going to have to make pivots again. And you're pivoting as you're resolving to be the best version of your venue that you can be in 2021. I want you to think in a nimble way. I had somebody call me the other week and say, we're thinking about doing this program. And they were thinking about, they were going to invest a lot of time and a lot of money into a particular program that if everything goes as planned right now, it could be a completely irrelevant product that nobody could even want or use in 3 months. So is it worth it to put, $30,000 into developing something that's going to be obsolete and not necessary? So I think it's really important to resolve to understanding your pivots from the past and planning for potential pivots in the future. Joel, any comments there before we move on?
No, nothing, nothing that's coming in chat. I mean, again, I could run through one on my end from my role, you know, thinking about we had to pivot again. Another way is with education, right? So the pivot was we started offering a lot more free webinars like the one we're on right now. The circumstance to that was obviously wanting to make sure that people still felt like they were getting value for their unique venues membership during a time when maybe leads had slowed down and they weren't seeing as much of the traditional value that they were getting out of it. The challenge, of course, was figuring out how to do this when we were typically used to doing 6 to 8 a year. So the solution was, fortunately, Chuck must have had like crystal ball vision because he'd hired me and made it part of my full-time role. And so I just switched and pivoted completely to focusing on finding speakers, working with people, learning Zoom, getting everything ready to go. And of course, the strategy of that not only was to, you know, have people see value in the membership that they had, and for those that were renewing and continuing to do that, but also to make sure that we use this downtime, this opportunity when there is less business, less leads, to really focus on our skill sets and to increase all of us professionally in the ways that we need to do to be ready for, as Chuck is now talking about, this next 2021 period when things start to accelerate and hopefully ramp up beyond where they were before, as everyone gets busy trying to rebook and book new stuff and everything else. It will be this time of spent in professional development. Again, a lot of the names I see here are people that have been to maybe even dozen or more of our webinars at this point. And that was part of the strategy, was to help keep people engaged and keep them prepared for what was coming. So again, I think everybody could probably go through and list 5 or 6 things, if you really stop and think about it, that you had to do to pivot this year.
Thanks, Joel. Another resolution, and this is from one of the biggest lessons I learned from 2020, is, you know, and it's kind of funny. Sometimes I say these things and I actually get like a little bit of a lump in my throat, because as I reflect back on this past year, it has sucked royally. But I think I have had some of the most professionally meaningful interactions that I've ever had with clients. There's something about these times that makes us a little bit more vulnerable to share our struggles and talk about our challenges and ask people for help. And to me, that was an unintended gift, is that I was able to build some stronger relationships that I think it wasn't that any of us ignored them, it's that we just took them for granted, you know, because we only talked to each other in the 3 minutes that we had to talk to each other the whole year, or as we passed down the hall at a conference, hey, how you doing? But now we're able to communicate. And one of the things I learned is that I wanted to understand how I can hold on to my clients, retain my clients, hold on to them. And what I came to realize is that if I only have one reason for people to do business with me, and that reason goes away, then I can't hold them. But if I only have one reason, holding somebody with one finger is tenuous. 2 fingers, less tenuous, still tenuous, 3 fingers. And what I decided was that I want unique venues, or I want our business, and I want you to do the same for your venue, is to have at least 5 reasons why people should do business with you, so that you can hold them in your hand. And if one of them goes away, you can still offer support to them. You can still provide solutions to them. I know it sounds really ethereal, but I'm going to bring it to life now in a less fluffy way. Everybody knew us from a lead generation standpoint. That's why you did business with us. And lead generation went away. And one would think because lead generation went away, our business was going to go away. But because we made this decision, actually, we were making these decisions before this even happened to start to do these things, but this forced us to do it more quickly. We've retained almost 80% of our clients through this. And the reason we have is because we have lots of reasons. We have lead generation, and while things are slow, there are still leads coming in. Every day we process probably 60 leads that we send out there, some days up to 100 leads that we send out there. But we also recognize, boy, people are really going to need, when this is all over, to be able to really promote their venue and get as much exposure in this really crazy marketplace as they can. People need to know they're still around, they're still there. And while we've got a website, there's got to be a lot of other things that we can help them with outside of unique venues, ways they can promote and gain exposure for their venue. But the design studio came up because I sat there and I thought, and I apologize to people who aren't at campuses right now, but I worked at a campus and I remember what it was like in the best of times to go to marketing communications and say, I need to get a new brochure done, a digital brochure. And typically it ended up something like that. Okay, well, you're like number 97 and on the list. And then when they sat down, they didn't provide us with direction. They just said, what do you want it to say? Who is it going to? I mean, it wasn't from some point of expertise that they did it. And so we were like, we're the experts. We know these people better than their own marketing communications department knows them. We work with them. We have all kinds of information. We can do this. All they need to say, this is what we want. This is who the market is. We can gather their information, look at brand guidelines, stay in brand, do it. That was another thing. Consulting engagements, a lot of there. Professional development. Boy, have I learned this year how much this group of people appreciates professional development. And then intern housing are an auxiliary source of revenue for people who are able to offer that. So now there's multiple reasons for people to do business. And it comes from a place of genuineness and passion for wanting to help the client. So I think as you resolve in 2020 to try to hold your clients in the palm of your hand with as many fingers as you can, it's different to hold them in the palm of your hand because that's an act of nurturing. I could have said, I want to have a tight grip on my clients and never let them go. That's an act of power and creating a self-centered set of opportunities. It's about me. And that's not where we come from. So I encourage you to think about how you can hold your clients in the palm of your hand and be of value to them, because it's all about relationships, right? I mean, if we gained anything from this year, it's about how important our relationships are with one another. And so one of the things I encourage you to do is to create that list of 5 or more reasons to be invaluable and to nurture and to hold your clients in the palm of your hand and to help them. Any questions so far, Joel?
Nope, not yet.
All right. Next. Now we're getting into out of the ethereal, this is rubber's hitting the road here. Ask the question, resolve to make sure you know the playing conditions before you take the field in 2021. I've been frustrated for our clients this year because I feel like, and I'd like an amen in the chat box if I have this right, but a lot of times I feel like our clients that we work with, you are like you're almost like getting into a 1970s pinball machine sometime and you're the ball. And your place you work for, your museum, your stadium, your university, your owners, whoever they are, they pull back and they let go, and based upon somebody else's thoughts, somebody else's needs, each and every day, you're being ricocheted all around there, right? And then they're hitting the flippers and trying to figure out, what are we going to do with conferences and events? When are we going to reopen? How are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? What's going to happen? How much money do they have to make? Their money's valuable. Their money's not valuable. It costs us too much to do it. It's a liability. We really need to do it. All of those questions. Is that, do I get any amens out there? Is that what's happening in the industry, because that's what I feel like when I talk.
You're getting amens, capital amens, OMG amens. So yes.
So to me, I say, that part of the pinball machine game now. Okay, so most of you aren't probably as old as me, but there's, it always gets stuck in this thing that builds up bonus points. There's like, it sits in there and good things are happening. Sometimes bad things are happening, but good things are typically happening before it gets released and you play again. I want you to make sure you get into that space in that pinball game where you're getting the information you need in order to be successful. And here's some of the things I want you to be able to ask and know heading into 2021. First of all, what are the priorities for you from the people who own you, who direct you, who make the decisions about your business above you? What are their priorities for your operation this year? Is it to provide support in areas outside of conferences and events until such time that they have a clearer picture? Is it to sell conferences and events starting at this particular date with the expectation that it's going to happen? Is it that we're just not going to do it? What are the priorities that have been set for you from above? Not what are your priorities, what are the priorities that you have to exist within, right? Secondly, what are their timelines? What are the timeline expectations for you? It was funny because I spoke with someone recently who lost 75% of their entire team. I'm not talking about temporary furloughs. I'm saying gone. While simultaneously, and this was about a 12-person team, simultaneously being told, we hope to restart business in July. Okay. So here's the thing. What that person's supervisor probably didn't realize and needs educated on is that, great, so that means that right now we need to be selling if we're going to have business in July, but we just got rid of our salespeople. Great, we need to do some marketing to bring business in because it's not just going to fall on our laps, right? I mean, people don't even know if we're open anymore. But we just cut the whole staff. So the marketing person's gone, but is there even a budget? So what are your timelines that you have for me? And do I have what it takes to meet your priorities and your timelines? What do you expect from me for revenue? And how did you arrive at that figure? I mean, did you arrive at that figure because you took Q1 revenue from our last full year of real business and cut it down to 25% because we're still going to be in the midst of the pandemic, and Q2 we're starting to come out of it, so maybe move it to 30%, and Q3 there's a lot of things that are happening because you just told me we can open fully in in July, but we're probably going to be at about 55 to 60%. And then Q4, we're going to rock it back to, 80 to 90%. I mean, how did you come up with this? I need to understand because, see, it's all inextricably entwined. Priorities, timelines, revenue goals all have to coexist together, right? If they don't, and they don't match, if there's a mismatch, then you're going to fail. And this is your resolution to resolve, to make sure you have clear understanding and to provide background where it needs backed, where you need facts and understanding. What are your staffing levels going to be? Is are their priorities, their timelines, and their revenue goals realistic with the staffing levels you might have or be reduced to? And here's your part. Here's where you have to have some resolve about yourself. Your resolution needs to be, I am going to I am resolute about the fact that I am going to have to do some miracle work this year with 75%, 50%, 60% of the staff I have, and I'm willing to do that. They just have to meet you there, right? I mean, they have to work with you too, right? So, because, that's part of the plan, right? And also, what's the budget? What are they giving you to do this, right? So, I think it's really important about knowing and understanding the expectations. I'm going to ask a quick question, and Joel, you can just kind of give me a sense in the chat responses. Just give a yes or a no. How many of you feel that you fully know your expectations heading into 2021?
Seeing a couple yeses, lots of no's, a couple not at alls. No seems to be here's a couple more yeses or mostly yeses, not sure. No probably wins a little bit more. There are some people out there that clearly do know what their expectations for 2021 are.
Okay. For those of you where it's a no or not at all, I encourage you not to go in defensively, but to go in strategically and say, I'm really looking forward to a new year. I'm sure you are too. And I just would love to know and see if I could just ask you some questions as I begin to plan for 2021. They may really, really appreciate, most likely, I would appreciate if a team member came to me and said, what are your priorities for our department this year? How do you want to see things? Ask the questions. Don't sit back and wait for them to tell you if you don't know. Go out and seek it. What's the competition been up to? Resolve to find out what your competitors are doing. So here's the reality. I'm not going to throw out, I think I'll throw out what I think is the statistic, but maybe I shouldn't even do it. But, businesses do one of three things when there's a crisis. There are the people that hide under the rock, right? Okay, so, they're paralyzed by it. They've been forced to be paralyzed by it. It's like, and I'm going to give an example. When we were planning UVAMC, we have a contract for a hotel, for a major chain hotel for overnight accommodations in St. Petersburg, Florida. They were so busy hiding under a rock that we couldn't talk to anybody for months, was it, Joel? Because their salespeople weren't there. There was nobody answering the phones at a major chain hotel. There was no one to talk to for months. Nobody got back to us when we're trying to understand our options. And if I didn't have to use them in 2021, I guarantee I wouldn't use them in 2021. Wouldn't use them at all. I probably will never use that group of hotels again, because I think that's terrible business. So the second thing people do is they stand still. They're not hiding under a rock, but it's like freeze. It's like those people in Pompeii in the earthquake, and you see their bodies. They're doing exactly what they were doing when the crisis hit. And here we are. There are some people who are exactly the same as they were before, and they're still putting the widget in the Wadget every day. They're not hiding. They're not abandoning ship. They're still just doing their production line work. And then there are those who are reinventing themselves. People who hide under a rock are going to lose big time. You're going to be about 6 months behind everybody else in regaining your business, because by the time you dig yourself out from under that rock, the people who have been reinventing themselves, they're already out of the gate. So what's your competition doing? Have they been hiding under the rock? Have they stood still, put life on pause, or have they been reinventing? Are they aggressively out there in the marketplace working to earn business? Because here's what's going to happen. I don't know about you, but the day I got the notification in my news that there was the AstraZeneca, or was it the Pfizer, one of them, that was the first one that was 90% effective. Like, I didn't see that coming. I mean, everything I heard was it might be 50%. Who knows when they're going to be? We're not going to have anything until January. And the news says there's a vaccine that's 95% effective, 90% effective, whatever. How many people were caught off guard by that? Like, are you kidding me? Wow, that was big. See, this is what's going to happen. One day you're going to wake up, and if you're not trying to stay ahead of this, one day you're going to wake up, and what you're going to find out is that all of the sudden, people are booking business again. You know, I just read today, they actually have a card. You're going to carry a card that says that you've been vaccinated. I mean, they're moving, they're getting things going here. So I want you to see what your competition's doing. This is one of the resolutions. One is shop them. Shop them. They do it to you. I'm going to tell you right now, they do it to you. They know exactly, most likely, if they are good salespeople, they know exactly what you're charging. They know exactly what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what their advantages are over yours, what your advantages are over them. They know it, they get it, they understand it. You know, I remember when I worked at the University of Pittsburgh Conference Center, there was a woman who used to come from a hotel in town. It was the main conference hotel. And she would bring me cookies 4 times a year. That sounds so nice. She wasn't bringing me cookies 4 times a year because she wanted to bring me cookies 4 times a year. That was her reason. That was her why to be in the building, to be walking around the building, to say she's going to use the restrooms and say, oh, I love the new furniture you got. When did you do that? And, you know, I'd go back into my office. I'm sure she was strolling around, maybe talking to some of our clients. I'm sure she was going over and picking up some collateral material. You know, it's hard to do that right now, but face masks make you even less noticeable, right? But shop them, even if that means you bring somebody in to shop them for you. Next, scour their website. Let's be honest, your website is your lifeline to business. I'd like to say that we're your number one lifeline to business, but truly your number one lifeline to business is your website. And so look at their website and make this kind of list of questions. Do they provide an obvious solution? When you go to their website, does it accentuate what they specialize in? Is it evident? Do they have specials listed on their website? Are you able to tour and see a great visual depiction of their website? Can I learn about their catering from their website? Do I have a person to talk to? Are there people that I talk to, or is there just a general number? Have I noticed, do they have any kind of accolades or awards that they're presenting there? What can you learn about them by scouring their website? Conversely, what can they learn from scouring your website, right? So that's really important. And conduct some online searches. Just start looking them up. Type in, mine was the Holiday Inn in downtown Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Holiday Inn downtown, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. You're going to get things like see organizations and associations that are having meetings there. Any kind of news story about things that might have happened there, good or bad. Any kind of construction or updates that might be there. You're going to learn things. Just Search your competition and read and absorb all you can about them. Become as professional, as knowledgeable about them as you are about your own venue in order to be competitive. So resolve to do that. Joe, any comments or questions we should talk about right now?
Nope, just a lot of agreement from the stuff that's coming in. I think you've given some people some good things to think about today as they kind of sit down and plan for what their 2021 is going to look like.
All right, thank you. All right, next, take inventory of what you say. So let's take inventory of your marketing tools. So, there's, the term from the past 4 or 5 years ago was to have an IMP, an integrated marketing plan. And the whole idea behind an integrated marketing plan was to have a comprehensive plan that blended together traditional and digital marketing strategies in a way that provides you the greatest ROI at the least amount of expense. I mean, that's what an integrated marketing plan is, right? Now, we know our venues. We know our venues really well, and we know some have strong websites, some don't. Some are only their website and unique venues. Some have collateral material. Some are on other third-party websites. Some are doing this, doing that. The question I have is, what do you do? What are the marketing tools that you have available for your salesperson? The last thing you want to do is send someone into battle for a piece of business without bullets, or, you don't want to put somebody down to play a game of chess without all the pieces that they need compared to their opponent. So it's very, very important to understand the tools that you have available to you or that are important to you to grow your business. So this is just a really rudimentary sheet. I mean, I just put it together today, but just go down and list a tool and say, here's the tool, and this is the solution that tool is designed for, right? So the tool might be a digital brochure, and the solution is, provide a potential client with in-depth information and knowledge about your product, your venue, with links, because it's digital, you can have links to all kinds of things in it. Do you have it? Check it off. Does it need updated? Check it off. Do you need one? Check it off. What's the budget for that? Put it in there. What are some notes? When you complete it, put a check mark there. What are other tools? Paid ad campaigns or organic search, a company to help you with your website redesign, unique venues listing, whatever it might be, a newsletter to send to your current clients, whatever it might be. What are the tools and why would you want that tool? I mean, what's the tool supposed to help you do? That's the solution. Do you have it? Does it need updated? Do you need one? What's the budget? Put some notes in. Just take an inventory of what you currently have and some of the things that you wish you could have, right? I mean, I don't know if I ask this question, just maybe I'm off base, but do you feel like you have a complete toolbox, arsenal of weapons, chess pieces or whatever for sales to fight the fight, to win the game, to do that thing? Do you feel you have a complete toolbox? Yes or no? Chat away.
Just starting to get some responses coming in. A couple of no's, a yes, another no. No. I think most people probably feel like their toolbox is not quite complete. A couple are working on it. Mm-hmm. But I think most people would agree that there's probably a benefit to kind of listing out the tools that they require and figuring out which ones they have and which ones they need, and then starting to prioritize that activity.
Now is the time. Resolve. From now through the first quarter of next year, resolve to fill your toolbox up, because it does not make sense to start building your tools to build the house when all the wood's been dumped in the ground in front of you, right? It's not when you have leads that you need to respond to and a bucket full of leads that you need to respond to. That's when you're going to need the tools. Take the time now to develop the set of tools. Okay.
Yep. And just because I know you'll appreciate it, Kit chimed in and says she has a crescent wrench and a screwdriver, but she'd love a cordless drill. So it's not just what do you have or what do you need. Sometimes it's I have what I can use something, but can I make it better? Can I make it more efficient for me?
You know, just so everybody knows, don't make the mistake with your marketing tools that I make with my actual tools. I don't ever read how to use something. I just look at it, plug it in, start pressing buttons, see what kind of movement or motion it makes. I think this is what I do with it. Inevitably, you can ask Corey about the time I put a hole in his wall that was supposed to be just for a screw and it ended up being for, you know, a very large, his brand new house. It was sad. We had to patch it anyway. Use your tools wisely.
Hey, before you move on really quickly, we had a question come in right towards about web page. So someone it was Crystal, had never considered shopping the competition through their web page. When it comes to web pages, is there a greater benefit and transparency of costs, specials where a potential client can determine if your venue is within their budget, or remain silent about costs and have potential clients request an RFP? And in their case, they don't have flexibility to discount. So she's wondering, you know, is it better to kind of tell people kind of what things cost, or is it better to try to lead them there and then engage in that conversation when they get there?
So, you know, we have to look at this from two different perspectives. There are people that know how much you cost that compete against you. They know what your costs are. If they're good salespeople. I mean, my greatest competition was the Penn State Conference Centers, and they had two of them. And, you know, for me, I knew all about them. Did they publish those rates? No, I learned it from secret shopping. But think about it from a consumer standpoint. I have to really be interested in something for me to take the extra step to write to them and say, can we meet to talk about how much this costs? Is there a middle ground where you don't have to spell out all of your costs? Can you use terms like starting at? Can you use language, emotive language that helps to describe your price points? Affordability, price conscious, luxury for less, those types of things, if you're not willing to do it. What you have to, if you're not going to put your prices out there, then you have to build enough intrigue for people about the product that they're willing to take that next step to learn what your prices will be. Okay. So we don't put our prices on unique venues. My competition doesn't put for the most part, don't put their prices on their websites. Now, but what we do is we're actually in the design right now. We're doing a brand new thing this year. It's a product catalog that has a description of every service and the prices. But that only goes to people who have shown interest. So, you know, we are in a really competitive environment. My greatest piece of advice would be to write language that elicits a desire for people to want to know more about you. So address your pricing with emotive language. Price points for all budgets, you know, options for all budgets, and that type of thing. There's a lot of people like me out there that will shop you anyway. I mean, my competitors do not have their pricing down, but was it 2 years ago, we actually paid somebody to shop them. And we got all the information. They know us. They know everything about us. So Refresh your brand and your messaging. So um, I kind of alluded to this at the beginning. And I think this is something you can do when you're taking inventory and you're updating things, which is why I placed this here, is that, is your messaging relevant for the times? We're taking more of an approach in 2021, kind of like busting out of the gate. We're almost taking the approach like almost like it's a new product in a new time, because it is, right? I hate that the words new normal. Somebody used the words the next normal, and I like that. It's the next normal. And I feel like branding and messaging needs to be, I think for people who ignore the fact that we are about to emerge. I mean, I understand we're in the darkest of days right now. We really are. But we're about to emerge from this. Anybody who uses messaging as if nothing happened, I think is tone deaf. I don't think that means that we start everything like it's been a hell of a year, it's been a really tough time, budgets are low. I don't think it's that. I think it's more like, for me, a message of renewal and resurgence. We're pumped up. We're ready to go. We are ready. Our foot is, we're not even on the starting block anymore. We've started running laps already. We are ready for you. We're excited. We've recreated things. We're doing new things. You know, we're not going to be caught with our pants down ever again by something like this. You know, whatever that messaging is or that concept is, I think that's what people need to hear. The world, we want to think that the world stopped and it's just going to start again. But our business stopped. But the world has been spinning under our feet and changing. And that requires us to make sure we keep moving. Does that make sense? So I think as you're doing your inventory, really think about how you present yourself in your messaging. And making sure that you're writing messaging where people are going to look and say, they know what they're doing and I trust them. See, people look for, you know, in tough times, people look for trusted advisors. And this is your chance. This is the thing about it. This is the opportunity. This is the chance you have, and there's a short window to develop a trusted relationship with people who don't really know you through the way you portray yourself to them. Because here's what's going to happen. 3 months after we start getting vaccines and everything's back to normal, everybody's like, people, I laugh when people say people aren't going to want to meet again. I'm like, really? Do you realize why we have a resurgence in COVID right now? Why we had one this summer? Because when we had the 4th of July, everybody was dancing with their shirts off at the beach club, side by side, and partying and drinking, because we are built to gather. It's our human condition. Sorry, Canadians, but I think the same thing happened in Canada. The Canadians tend to be much better at following rules than Americans do, because I think Canada had the rule of like no more than 10 people in a household for a Thanksgiving dinner unless you have it outside. And they actually had, I'm not sure, but I think they actually had policing of that or whatever. Whereas in the States, it's like, hell with that. I'm having 100 people and we're having 3 fried turkeys in the driveway and we're going to do this and we're going to do that because that's what we do. And nobody's going to stop me and I'm not going to wear my mask. And now here we are because people want to gather. So I think having a message that's not tone deaf and is encouraging and builds trust in a relationship is going to help you. Is it that time already? Oh, we're getting close. Okay, here we go. I do this all the time. Be a digital force, because digital is where it's at. How to be a digital force. Set when you're building your inventory and you're putting your resolutions together, really inventory your website. And Joel, if you don't mind reminding me, one of the things that we could send out to everybody that attended today, I'm not sure how to do this. I'll let you figure that part out, but I can do kind of a checklist of things they should check off that they have on their website, but it's kind of like the must-haves for a good productive website. And then that way you can kind of do inventory. Do we have that? Do we have that? Do we have that? Be a digital force.
I actually have a one-pager on that, so I can include that with the slides. You just send me the slides afterward and I will include that.
Perfect. Second, do you have organic SEO? Meaning when somebody puts in a search for, wedding venues in Vancouver or meeting places in Atlanta or whatever it might be, are you coming up on your own, not because of a third party or whatever, but on your own in the search results? And do you need some organic work done? Do you have videos? Because we love them. We now watch 80 minutes a day of videos on average. And I know that sounds crazy, but just start keeping track of how many times you watch something that is video. Do you have any paid ad campaigns? So there was a time, I've said this before, I used to be very anti-paid ads, because for some reason, if I said I was looking for a resort in Playa del Carmen, I was getting an ad for Target. And I'm like, this bothers me. But now paid ads have evolved so much that you get very relevant results, and people are competing like mad for positioning in paid ads. And so do you have some paid ad campaigning that fortifies your presence online? Are you a social beast? I finally did something with my own social presence, which, just so you know, I don't like social media that much, but it is a necessary tool, I believe, now in our industry. But your social presence is supposed to provide compelling reasons why people who might do business with you should do business with you, or why people who currently do business with you should stick with doing business with you, or why people who didn't choose you to do business with sure do wish they would have chose you to do business with. That's, as a business, as a venue, that's one of the questions you have to respond to. Go through and delete every post that doesn't answer one of those three questions. You can do that. Just get rid of the noise and make your social presence relevant. Okay? So it should be about getting new customers, keeping current customers, escalating your customers to do more with you. And third-party content, you're already members of Unique Venues, so I'm not selling you. The truth is, it's a great way, because I call Google the evil empire, but the evil empire likes third-party websites like ours. The more content a site has, it's going to leapfrog over individual venues. And so make sure on good, solid third-party contents. And I really do appreciate that you've chosen us to do business with. And I thank you for that, which is one of the things that drives us to make sure that we represent you well in the industry. Reclaim your business. Last year, we all lost a lot of business. It's yours. They left you. They canceled on you because of COVID. They didn't cancel on you because you're not good. They were forced to have to not do business with you. Reclaim your business. Resolve to reclaim all or as much as possible of the business that is rightfully yours. I'm not saying from a legal standpoint. I'm saying, imagine it's like you're the person you have the biggest crush on, and you've been dating them for a really long time, and all of a sudden it's like a Molly Ringwald movie, right? And then all of a sudden somebody comes in and they're working to sweep your business off its feet. BS. That's my business. I am going to call every single one of my clients that I did business with last year that I had to cancel or had to cancel for us. And I'm going to call them and wish them a happy new year. I'm going to say, let's set up some time. Let's just find out what's going on this year. I'll tell you a little bit about what our plans are. What are your plans? Let's communicate. Let's keep talking. This is your business. Reclaim it. Do we have time? I just want everybody to make a resolution right now publicly. What is one thing? What is that one thing that we talked about today that resonated so strongly with you that you will do in 2021? Just one thing. And just type it into the chat and Joel can share some of those.
Yep. Waiting to see a couple of them come in here. Website checklist. Kit's going to make sure she goes through the website checklist. Somebody's going to do a complete website update because that's going to do that. See what else people have. What's the one must do? Refreshing brand and messaging with the website checklist. I think people are going to be excited about that. Someone's going to build their toolkit, shop the competition, increase their presence in social media. Speaking with ownership, again, making sure we find out, ask my supervisor what her priorities are, call all 2020 clients and shop the competition, get rid of the noise on social media and the website. Again, I think a lot of the things that you shared today are resonating with people in terms of, things that they can focus on during the downtime.
I gave you a bunch of things to think about doing. And I think if you just do one thing, and then once you do that one thing, you do another thing. We at Unique Venues, prior to COVID, we had this plan where we said we will obsess about 3 things at a time. So obsess about 3 things. Obsess about one thing, then another one, then another one. Once those are done, obsess about 3 new things. But when you try to get overwhelmed by all of it, you're going to be stuck. So. And I just want to end with saying happy holidays. I'm excited for 2021, but I'll tell you one of the best things about 2020 is that we had people like you to work with, because if we didn't have such great people to work for every day in 2020, it would have been a really, really rough year. But we understand that people are starting to kind of slow down for the year in a couple of weeks, and we don't have a lot of webinars left. How many more do we have left?
So we've got just a couple, and that's what I was going to let people know is that next Tuesday, Krista Moore is doing one similar about resolutions, but more personally, professionally than marketing resolutions, called Your Word of the Year. And she's going to talk about not only the process of making a resolution, but then sticking to it, which is usually the problem that most of us have is we make a resolution and by January 15th, we've given up on it completely. So if you want to get Krista's thoughts on that, join us next Tuesday. And then we have an end of year celebration next Thursday. With the UV staff, with our team. It's going to be a big giant Zoom meeting. Everybody's going to be on screen, faces and voices and all that. We're going to play some trivia. We're going to do a little scavenger hunt. We're just going to have some fun, and we're going to celebrate the fact, like Chuck's opening slide, that we're about to shove that 0 over the edge of that cliff and bring that 1 and plop it in place and have that sunrise coming up behind 2021. So join us for there. And then we have our last couple of opportunities for small group gatherings. We have a member group therapy on December 15th. So again, chance to get together and talk about what's going on, and a planner roundtable on December 17th. Again, those have been promoted in the newsletters that came out last week, as well as you can find the webinar registrations on our resources page at www.uniquevenues.com/resources.
And our offices will be closed the 24th and 25th and the 31st of December and the 1st of January. But other than that, we will be open throughout the holidays if you need us. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Chuck, thank you today. We appreciate it. Everybody, lots of great thank yous and that in the chat. We hope we see you next week at our celebration. And if you need anything from us at any point, just reach out and let us know. We're always happy to help. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.